Hi everybody, I'd like to personally thank you for tuning into our video, because you have a choice of listening to other people who've actually played Breath of the Wild talk about it, but you chose us. Me, Matthew, and Chris here.
And neither of us have actually played Zelda yet.
Yeah, but here's the thing, here's where it gets good, because you don't have to be jealous of us, you know? Because when I watch these other videos, I'm just seething with rage knowing other people can play this game before me. We're right there with you, we're like your buddies, we're relatable. Right? We're relatable.
We watched all these stuck-up jerks who have the game in their possession.
So stuck up.
And we figured out what they learned about Zelda, and we're going to share it with you now.
Yeah, put through a Matthew and Chris filter.
Yeah.
Okay, so The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild launches in 1 week as of this recording. That's 7 days away, folks, and I am just champing out the bit here. It comes out, of course, on the Wii U and the Switch for $60, and we've learned all sorts of new impressions from people who've been playing it, and, you know, as we've said, making us angry and jealous. But, Chris, what are some of the things that have stood out to you based on this recent glut of information?
Well, the thing that everyone seems to agree on is that this game is hard. And that is really exciting to me. Because Zelda's been a little too easy for the last, number of installments. I think Majora's Mask was pretty tough. But, and Wind Waker, the dungeons were too easy, the damage was too low. There were several installments where I felt they kind of treated the audience with kid gloves. And they are not doing that in Breath of the Wild, which really does excite me. There's enemies that can take you out instantly. They gang up on you, they can shoot you from really far away. There's not a lot of barriers in this game, so the exploration is so open that you can wander into an area that's got enemies in there that you are not equipped to fight, and they will just tear you apart.
This is also cool because not only does it extend to the combat, but also to just the general way the game is designed. In other words, there's not really a long tutorial at the beginning. You kind of get a few notes on what things do, and then you're kind of on your way. And if you die, it's pretty much, that's on you.
Yeah, that's another thing I really like, is that there's no hand-holding in this game. There's if the first hour or so, people say there's a number of little boxes that pop up and say, hey, this is how you do this is how you do that. But once you get past that, it's not like a drawn-out, segment of the game that forces you to do certain things. It lets you go in any direction. It lets you really make your own experience. Everyone that I've listened to talk about the game says they've had a totally unique experience. They went a different direction than anyone else. The world is so huge that you're going to be talking with your friends about, oh, I went over here and saw this thing, and then your friends will say, wow, I did something completely different.
That's kind of the second thing that everyone seems to agree on, is that the game is just absolutely massive in terms of size and scale and scope. And beyond that, it looks like our fears about it being a little too empty, they've been assuaged, I would say, from these impressions, because it sounds like the game's very dense with things to do. And like you said, it's really cool that everyone's going to have their kind of own story going into the game, and their own little adventures that are not necessarily just on this linear path, which is what a lot of games have been stuck doing recently, Zelda included.
People say that there is a story in the game that is, relatively linear, and the game will kind of point you in the direction of the story. It remains to be seen whether that leaves the exploration feeling like a distraction, or whether it leaves the story feeling like an afterthought. I don't know. Those are two possibilities that cross my mind.
That reminds me of my own experiences playing the Nintendo 64 classic, Donkey Kong 64, where I would often get distracted by other trails of bananas and stuff while going towards a specific trail of bananas. So if this game is like a fraction as good as that, I think we're in for a terrific time.
Good analogy. A good comparison. Another thing I really am excited to hear about is the NPCs in the game, which sound like Majora's Mask inspired. They have lives, they go from one place to another. They don't just stand in one place waiting for you to talk to them. They have based on the time of the day, or they'll go to work, they'll go do things, and they don't follow a strict path either. So you can talk to them, you can get in front of them, you can interact with them as they're doing these things. And
you'll kind of run into them in just not necessarily random locations, but in different locations.
Yeah.
As you're going, you'll find this NPC in location A at this point, but you go back there later and they might not be there. They might be in location B, and that's pretty surprising. I didn't know there was this level of depth to the people, because that's a part of the game that's been kind of shrouded in mystery for since the unveiling of the game.
Yeah, that's still one of the things under embargo. Apparently, people who are currently covering the game can't talk about certain things, so they can't talk about the towns, they can't talk about the story, they can't talk about later advanced weapons you get.
Like the big dungeons or whatever.
Yeah, they can really only talk about the first few hours of the game. That's really what we have to go on, but Another cool thing about this game is the ability to beat it very quickly. The openness of the game extends to the final boss, and we've listened to some reports of people who tried to do it and said it was insanely difficult.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping for, because Aonuma had confirmed this before, but it's nice to know, that wasn't just a bunch of hot air. Like, this is something you can make an attempt to do, and I plan on doing that probably within the first couple days I get the game, just because it sounds like a neat little change of pace there. Charge the castle.
Yeah, and I'm really curious to see how that plays out. Like, whether the difficulty of the game is based on just having to learn how to deal with certain challenges, or whether it's really a skill-based, like, you have to be constantly on top of your game to avoid the attacks, to get the attacks you need, to overcome those challenges to actually get to the final boss, or even to get through a difficult area that you haven't, powered up enough to deal with easily.
Yeah. By and large, it sounds like there's a multitude of ways to approach each situation this time around. It's a little more analog in a way than past Zelda games where there might be just one solution to a puzzle. And this one you can kind of, because of the way the AI works and because of the way the game physics work and the different runes you have, that you can manipulate things.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to being able to tackle these situations in a multitude of ways.
The runes that we've seen from the videos released today are the same runes we've seen before, which is like you can manipulate the E3 ones where you can lift things up, you can swing things around, you can, the stasis rune where you like hit things multiple times and then fling it across the room. But it seems like there's a lot of these different abilities that you get throughout the game. I'm really excited to see how this opens up the options available to the player. It sounds like the multiple ways to achieve objectives in this game is very exciting.
And one of the other things I see everyone agreeing on is that not only does this Zelda game take some modern conveniences into effect, like the physics engine, the voice acting, etc., but it also is by and large a return to Zelda's roots for the very first game, making it that open-ended feel, that exploration feel. Everybody's using this comparison, and I'd just like to go ahead and say that I told you guys that Zelda 1 was a great game. I know not everybody agreed with my list, my top Zelda list. I've got kind of unique tastes, but Zelda 1 is a masterpiece. And I mean, I mentioned it in the list as well, but the fact that Nintendo has decided the future of Zelda was by looking back and seeing what worked from the very beginning just shows how forward-thinking that game really was. So as a huge Zelda 1 fan, obviously I'm really excited for that aspect as well.
The main concern that I have is inventory management. There's a lot of little items you pick up in this game. You're pretty much constantly picking up and using items, whether that's food or weapons or arrows or what have you. And it seems like it's not the most streamlined system. You have to constantly keep pausing the game for a few seconds here and there to switch weapons or to pick up, items or rearrange things. And there's a limit to how much you can carry. So at some point you're going to have to pause the menu, like go to the menu, drop some items to pick up other items. The degree of crafting is still a little uncertain, so I don't know how far that's going to be taken, but I guess that remains my biggest concern, whether that is going to end up kind of dragging down the exploration. Like, you go exploring, you collect a bunch of stuff, and like, oh, now I gotta sort through all the garbage.
You're really going to have to do a lot of stop and go stuff.
Yeah.
Stop and pause.
That's my concern.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I'm hoping there's like some bigger bags, bigger inventory bags and stuff that you can collect. I mean, it's sort of similar to how the rupees worked in the past games. You get hold larger quantities of rupees.
Probably.
I also think one of the things that sort of mitigates that, it really depends on your style of play, but you can hurl your wielded weapon at enemies when they're about to break, or just anytime really, and they'll shatter and deal more damage. And that's kind of a quick and easy way to get rid of your weapon without having to go to the inventory. It seems there's sort of two inventories. Like, one is actually takes you to another screen. I think that's the one with the food and stuff, where you see, Link and he's eating food and doing the funny animations and stuff, or he's shivering because he's cold.
Yeah.
And the other one is kind of just a little bit of an overlay.
Right.
Where you pick your weapon. It's like I think that helps it a little bit, but I think that's also a valid concern to have for the game, just because going into menus a whole lot and managing your inventory can be kind of a drag, depending on how it's done.
Yeah, if a weapon pops out immediately right after you lose your previous one, I'd be more okay with it, especially if you can like arrange them in a certain order. Well, but even that might require you to be in your inventory more than you want to. So if your weapon breaks and then you pick up another weapon immediately, just from the environment, then you don't experience that pause, the break in the gameplay. I'm curious to see if you can quickly pull something out of your inventory without having to go to the menu. They've said that the story is darker than some other Zelda games, and it's emotional. Like some people compare it to Majora's Mask in terms of like the kind of dark stuff that the characters go through in that game, which I think is exciting.
As long as they don't take it to a ridiculous degree, I'm definitely fine with that. Darkness and light, big part of the series, and the trailer hinted to that pretty much as well with the really dramatic last half of it. Zelda's all torn up.
Regarding the challenge, I really like that you have to kind of fear enemies now. In a lot of previous Zelda games, or a lot of games in general, you are very powerful as a player, and you can kind of just, there's some enemies, I'm going to go fight them.
Mm-hmm.
It seems that the challenge of the game really makes you reconsider that sort of behavior. You have to like pause and say, oh, I can't just run into that group of enemies because they're going to beat me up and throw me around and knock me around. It seems like there's not much, I don't know if there's many invincibility frames in this game, so like you can get knocked around by various things.
Yeah, seems that way.
And if you're like rolling down a hill, you'll keep taking damage as you roll. So
yeah, it's it definitely speaks to a more wild and kind of a dangerous Hyrule, which I think is cool.
Right, but that's so exciting because
you're out in the wilderness.
Yeah,
I mean it should be dangerous. It should be that element of, I don't know if I'm ready to go this way. I think I'm gonna go the safe way instead.
Yeah, it sounds like players are dying a lot playing this game. Like you're constantly dying because you're overestimating your abilities, or you're not you're not affording the game the respect that it deserves.
I look forward to dying a lot, I gotta say.
Yeah, me too.
Death, something to look forward to in Zelda.
The last major theme I wanted to talk about was the nature of hype. So,
oh yeah,
this game.
Gotta be careful with that hype, you guys.
This game is getting hyped a lot.
I am not careful with the hype when it comes to this game.
Are you not afraid of being overhyped for it?
Well, I mean, what's the worst that can happen? I'm disappointed in a video game.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
That's pretty bad. You're right, especially if it's a new Zelda game. We get one of these like every 6 years.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I mean, but it's so fun. It's so fun to read the impressions and to see other people that are excited. I mean, that's partly why we're recording this, just to because we gotta get these thoughts out there. We gotta talk to friends and talk to fellow gamers just about the aspects of this hobby that excite us. I think what you're alluding to is that it kind of has a dark side, right? Where it can mess up the game for you.
Yeah.
Right. You don't want that to happen. Historically, we have certain games that we point to in the past of being major events or major steps forward for the series or for the industry. People still talk about Super Metroid and Metroid Prime, and why do I keep saying Metroids? There's been several Zeldas and Marios in there as well. Mario 64, these kind of defining games.
When we're anticipating a game, it's very easy to get wrapped up in all these things that aren't really related to the game itself. Like, this game is going to be so great that I'm going to reevaluate what I think about other games. It's going to be this revolutionary experience, this transformative experience. And I'm not sure how fair that is to the game itself, because, not everyone is going to have that experience with it. Not everyone is going to pick it up and feel like their life has been improved by playing this game,
Well, I mean, you gotta be careful about like what people are saying about it versus that interpretation that it's like this transcendent redefinition of video games or something entirely.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the previews, there are several that have said this is probably going to be one of the best Zelda games ever. There's a few that are like, this is going to be one of the best games ever, period.
Yeah.
And if they feel that way, I mean, their job is to report on the quality of the game. So if they're getting that much, euphoria from playing Breath of the Wild, then good on them, I guess. Well, I mean, I'm hoping I feel the same way, because I know what that's like to play a game where everything's clicking and you're just like, this is a masterpiece right here. This is a game I'm going to be remembering throughout my adult life. Admittedly, it's been, happening far less as I get older, but whenever you come across something like that, you want to tell the world, you want to say, yeah, you got to go experience this. This is fantastic.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know how it is. There are things that we geek out over that we want other people to also enjoy. So I guess it comes along with that whole bundle there. And of course, the downside is, you don't want to oversell something. You don't want to set someone's expectations so high that they couldn't possibly be met. But that said, all these previews and stuff, their impressions, I'm pretty sure their expectations were also very high in and of themselves.
That's a good point. Would you enjoy the game more if you have no expectations and your expectations are surpassed, or if you have high expectations and your expectations are met or not quite met?
Okay, so you're I'm kind of looking at like a bell curve here.
Yeah.
Regarding expectations versus overall enjoyment. Well, I mean, it's hard to say. I think if you go in blind and you're just completely blindsided by something, that could be a factor, yeah. But at the same time, I think there's something enjoyable about the whole pre-launch period when everyone's really excited and, we're all remembering, past games that we've loved a lot, and we're all, being excited together about an upcoming game that's doing stuff we want it to do. There's something to be said for the whole community aspect of it, and whether that's a worthy trade-off or, maybe your hype being too high when the game comes out, I guess that's up to the individual to kind of figure out. A little bit of a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Does it remind you of Twilight Princess?
A little bit, because Twilight Princess was hyped a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And I found that game pretty disappointing. But maybe that was because Twilight Princess had this like euphoric, ridiculous, presentation at E3, and I think that played into it as well.
Yeah, it's because Twilight Princess followed the most controversial Nintendo controversy in pretty much in their history, which is really, really saying something.
Yeah,
because they've had a lot of controversial moments. Wind Waker, though, that made the internet explode. So when they turned around next year, the year after that, and showed that trailer for Twilight Princess that no one was expecting, that made the internet explode again. And yeah, I can understand what you're saying. Like, that game had so much hype behind it, and it was even delayed a couple times, like Breath of the Wild, and it had a simultaneous system release like Breath of the Wild. So there's definitely some parallels there. But I guess we'll find out in a week. If if it falls short, we'll have something else to talk about, or maybe it'll fall short for one of us and not the other, and then we'll have something to bit fight about.
Either way, we're going to be talking about it. So we really appreciate you guys listening to us on this. And so, so be sure to check back when we actually have the game and can tell you firsthand how it is.
Yep, but in the meantime, we'll be updating every day with new content until the Switch's launch, so stick around.